You know, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself. You know, I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast myself.
Hello. Welcome to yet another episode of Something of a Podcast. The only podcast brave enough to say, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm Mike Gamms, and with me, as always, is the very talented Kai VonDoom. Say hello, Kai.
Hello, Kai.
Yeah, so if you didn't notice, we weren't here last week, but we are back this week, and that's all that matters, That's gonna happen from time to time in life. There may be a week or two or whatever here or there when we're not able to do this, and that's quite all right. But we are back in full force today. And we got 2 weeks worth of something of 2 weeks worth of stuff to cover. I think that one didn't quite work. I'll work on it.
It was a good try.
Yeah,
good attempt.
it was something of a try. That one not really either. All right. Anyways, so I have a couple different things I wanted to talk about real quick up top before we get into a few topics and stuff. And that's as always, one of my favorite topics is Saturday Night Live. And I know you said you didn't see the most recent episode, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, today we're recording this. I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but today's April 2nd. And so yesterday was April 1st, April Fool's Day. And I know you've seen this, Kai. You saw what I thought was a clearly obvious April Fool's joke post yesterday. Did you happen to see that?
Oh yeah, your post, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because it's related to what we're talking about. So yeah, I want to I want to read this, and it just really pointed out because it's I got so many messages from all different kinds of people that should know me way better than this and should just know way better than this. It's like one of my most viewed stories, and it's like got a really high, one of the more high engagement numbers I've had on a post in a long time since they've been throttling in the algorithms and stuff. And it's because so many people believed that this ridiculous statement was true. So I want to read it real quick. And yeah, I know we'll move on, but it's so funny to me. It's okay. So I wrote yesterday on April 1st, I've been waiting for a while to announce this, but now that the contracts are officially signed, I'm unbelievably stoked and humbled to announce that starting next season, I will be a new cast member on Saturday Night Live. Should know it's a joke right from there.
Yep.
For the past 15 years, I've been grinding it out, paying my dues, and overcoming many obstacles along the way to success. Okay, that's fine. I live meagerly to survive as a struggling artist, giving up life's luxuries like $5 coffees and avocado toast. I am hammering it over the head, I feel like, at this point. And then I write, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. Come on now. And at this point in my career, I could say that I earned every bit of my success through hard work, determination, and talent. All things I do not like. This is clearly a joke to me, at least. I'm a
Yeah, if you made it that
story.
far, the bootstrap should be a dead giveaway for sure.
Right. I'm a self-made success story, a true testament to the meritocracy of the entertainment industry. Something that I totally don't believe in. Then and the most talented and hardworking people rise to the top. And I'm humbled to be one of them. That's a joke too. How am I being humble in any of this? And if you still haven't gotten that it's a joke, thanks to all my friends and supporters, and especially thank you to my uncle, Lorne Michaels. And if the creator of Saturday Night Live, and if you don't get that that's the creator of the Saturday Night Live, I went one step further and said, and my godfather, Mike Myers, both of whom I was named after, for showing me how to carve my own path in this crazy business and make it all on my own. In the same sentence that I'm talking about my Lorne Michaels being my uncle, this to me was like, it's too obvious. It's too obvious. And then if you then
The thing is, people don't read.
Yeah, that's it. Nobody read it. Nobody read it. That's the problem. Is all the people that bought it, fell for it, did not read very far at all. And then even the last sentence, it says, I wrote, truly a humbling experience that couldn't happen to a more deserving person than me. That's the final joke. Like, a humbling experience couldn't happen to a more deserving person than me. But I think either majority of people didn't read, just reacted. And what's worse is that people believe that I could possibly be this full of shit. It's believable that I would be like that, I guess. So I need to reevaluate my life. But yeah, so just for the record, I am not a cast member on Saturday Night Live. But yeah, it's just too yeah. Clearly, none of these people listen to our podcast, or else they would have known this is a joke. But anyways, enough about me. Speaking of Saturday Night Live, I know you said you didn't see it this week, but we just had a new episode on Saturday, and I just briefly want to mention it was hosted by Ramy Youssef. And you're familiar with Ramy, right? I think we talked about him before.
Yes, he was in Poor Things, which I
Yes,
praised in our Oscar discussion.
correct. That's right. Poor Things. And then he has a show called Ramy that I haven't seen yet. But two
Yeah, it's
things
also really good.
yeah, I've heard that. Two things I want to mention is, one, I was like vaguely familiar with him, but I hadn't really paid much attention to his stuff. And I did not realize how good looking Ramy is. So I'm like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch this show. He's gonna and second is he talked about the genocide of Palestine that is occurring in his monologue. And so he brought that up in his monologue, which is super key and important. And yeah, we'll talk more about Saturday Night Live and all that on another time once you've had a chance to catch up. But just as a teaser for what's to come is that yeah, I want to really get into breakdown that and what he said and all that kind of stuff. But it was yeah, it's refreshing to see someone using their platform like that. But yes, and then one more thing before it's related to this. So you mentioned Poor Things. So I just realized that not only is Ramy Youssef in this movie, but one of my favorite people is also in it, Jerrod Carmichael.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. I seen that on the credits list, and I know you said you haven't seen it yet, but I think you've probably seen the news about it or heard kind of roughly about Jerrod Carmichael's new show he has on HBO. It's called Jerrod Carmichael Reality Show.
Yeah, I've seen the clip going around with Tyler, the creator.
Yeah, the whole episode is about that, about how he told his friend Tyler 3 years ago that he had feelings for him. Tyler didn't reciprocate those feelings and kind of laughed it off, and then they haven't really talked much since. And then he tried to have a conversation with him about that on camera, and that's what the whole episode is about. And yeah, so the whole episode is basically that clip, and I thought it's worthwhile. It's really good. I think, like, I think there's a lot of takes on it. People are trying to kind of maybe clown on Jerrod Carmichael, like how cringy that he comes off or something, like putting his friend on the spot like this. Um, and I think that's kind of the point. He's showing that's very a Jerrod Carmichael thing to do, which is like to show his own most like um cringy or vulnerable moments, and he's sort of experimenting with that medium. And he's in this episode, I really got it almost had like Nathan Fielder vibes in the way that they sort of
Mhm.
play on this awkwardness. And it's not like an accident. It's not like are a lot of people are posting about this clip as if like Jerrod Carmichael didn't know exactly what he was doing when he released the clip. Like it's not like someone just found this footage. No, that's what the episode is about. He's very forthcoming with all the things that people may have to kind of say about how cringy or weird that behavior is. He's like, that's what it's about. So it's more self-aware than I think people are giving it credit for in their initial um reaction to it. But it's worth
It's
checking
because
out.
I've seen the opposite criticism. So
Oh,
I do
really?
think like yeah, I do think that's what a reality show should be about. It should be like showing your cringier sides and your more human side. But I've seen a lot of hate towards Tyler and people praising
Oh,
Gerard.
oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, yeah. I mean, it's an uncomfortable situation. Like nobody owes somebody romantic feelings, you know?
Yeah.
And so Tyler does have that autonomy to say no, that he's not interested in somebody that way, just like anybody would. Um, and I don't know. You'll have to watch like the whole episode, but my kind of it's like it's really gray on like people can behave could maybe make better choices, but it's not necessarily that they're bad or one is bad or one is wrong, you know? One is wrong and one is right. They're both like yeah, each could probably like I mean, is that the best way to approach that? Like with cameras? I don't know. But then these are also two people whose whole lives are kind of like on camera, and that's kind of like what they do. So having a conversation on camera is more like natural, like normal to them. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm really interested to see where the show goes from here. And one thing I wanted to say about Jerrod Carmichael before we move on is it's very kind of interesting. I'm a big fan, and I've watched his career for like a long time. And at one point, used to know him before he was, but pretty much before Neighbors came out, and he was doing like small shows in LA. I'd see him around, but he was already blowing up then. I haven't seen him in probably 10 years, but he like his career's been very interesting because like you take the Carmichael show for example. I didn't watch like a ton of it, or did you see it at all?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes.
Yeah, and it's like his take on a CBS sitcom, like a network sitcom, which is in a way like kind of the pinnacle of the most kind of heteronormative thing you could do as a comedian is like get your own network sitcom about your family, like the Carmichael show. And then has since then like had so he reached that sort of pinnacle, and then since came out as bi, and then I believe he's came out now as saying he's only gay, he's not bi, and he's been documenting sort of like that journey in real time too. And it's just like it's interesting to me, you know. But yeah, I digress. I'm curious to see where that goes from there. Um, but yeah, I think that's
Is the
about
show on HBO?
yeah. Yeah, it's HBO. It's an HBO show, and it comes out Fridays on HBO. And there's supposed to be a handful of episodes. And he's pretty selective with the amount of projects he's done. He doesn't like he's in a lot of stuff, so he's kind of like takes care with each one. But yeah, HBO on Fridays, and yeah, so I'm gonna keep an eye on that and see how that goes. But yeah, uh, I guess as another a beautiful segue here. Speaking of HBO, um, I'm gonna ask you a question I already know the answer to, but did you watch the Quiet on Set docuseries about Nickelodeon that aired on HBO?
Yes, I have seen every episode.
Yes, indeed. Um, yeah, it's a heavy one. Do you wanna maybe explain what it's about for those who don't know?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So it's a four-part docuseries, which kind of explains kind of the what was going on behind the scenes in the Dan Schneider era of Nickelodeon. So for millennials, that's pretty much, and a lot of Gen Z, that's the era of Nickelodeon that we grew up on with all that, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, iCarly, Zoe 101. Those are the main shows they covered. And they just talked about the treatment of both the child talent as well as the writers on those sets. And people focus a lot on what Drake Bell went through. That was like the big story that he had been brutally raped by one of the line coaches, like several times.
Brian
But
Peck.
there, yeah, Brian Peck. And aside from all of that, there's also the black actors on the Amanda Show and all that expressed the racism that they experienced on set. The female writers were saying that they had to share a salary and they were being abused on set as well. So there was just from top to bottom, there was just a lot of mistreatment going on.
Absolutely. And it's a really interesting docuseries. I watched it all, and then I watched it a second time, most of it. I watched at least the first two episodes again. Um, and this is a really interesting one. Not interesting isn't the right word. I don't know what is the right word for this. Um, one thing is that it's not that significant, but I'm 5 years older than you, right? So it's just that slight age difference means that there's crossover in that. Like I grew up with all that and then the Amanda Show, but not too much after that. Like all those other shows that continue with like the Dan Schneider made after the initial ones weren't really for me, and I didn't really watch them. I am aware of them, just because they're big parts of pop culture and stuff. But the thing with Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon and I've long said that it should be illegal for children to work in film and television, like almost any other job on earth where it's like child labor. And I would rather not be able to see a child in a television show or movie ever again, lose that from the art, is better than what seemingly occurs almost all the time across the board with child stars, child actors. Because this isn't just a Nickelodeon. This happens a lot more than just right here. Um, yeah, but so let me think. How do I want to bridge this one? Um, so uh, yeah, so I guess I could say this is that on a personal note, watching the Quiet on Set doc, uh, is was was personal to me, in a way because I did work on a show on Nickelodeon for a few years between 2012 and like 2015, I want to say. And I was so in addition to doing like stand-up comedy and all these other things, when I moved to Los Angeles, I went to film school and worked on set as like a crew member. And I was always trying to get into comedy. And I first started out as a PA, and then I moved into doing like props and set building and set design and a little bit of costumes and that sort of stuff. And so I started working for a lot of comedy companies. So I was working for College Humor. I did some stuff for Funny or Die. I occasionally would, and then there was this company, same type of place, called Awesomeness TV, that was a YouTube channel that made digital content for children, like sketch comedy for children. And it would air on YouTube, and it was like this kind of multi-channel network. And I started doing online content for them somewhere around 2012. Well, the thing is Awesomeness TV is a company that was founded by Brian Robbins, who is the creator of all that. And in the first episode of Quiet on the Set, you see him, I lost count at 12 times, 12 different times. He is in just that first episode alone. So it's I don't know. So there's okay. I know I'm stammering here a bit, but I'm trying to figure out exactly how to articulate this. That YouTube channel I worked with eventually got sold to Nickelodeon and became a show on Nickelodeon. It was airing straight on Nickelodeon and was hosted by Daniela Monet, who was on Victorious and was under the whole Dan Schneider stuff. And in 2018, she was one of the first people that came out publicly and was talking about Dan Schneider. But so since then, Brian Robbins, who founded Awesomeness TV and created all that and a few other shows, then has since became the CEO of Nickelodeon and president of Nickelodeon, and then since has been promoted to the CEO and president of Paramount Studios. The whole shebang. He runs all of it. That's my old boss, Dan Schneider's old friend. And my big brain take on the whole thing of Quiet on Set, right, is that this documentary is extremely revealing, and the stuff that's in it, in this docuseries, about Dan Schneider, about Brian Peck, and about the other, I can't remember, the one other crew member that was a convicted sex offender, is important that this information is out there. But I have a lot of questions about what was omitted from this story, and if there is going to be a season 2 that goes further into this. And because you'll notice they make mention of people who are higher up than Dan Schneider, which would be like, in the beginning, it would be the showrunners, and it would be the executives at Nickelodeon, and the people who are further up on the food chain, but it never talks about them at all. It kind of glazes over them, and it gives us all this information about Dan Schneider, who's an awful human being. But Dan Schneider was let go by Nickelodeon 6 years ago because of these accusations, which were made public and were known. So he's not worked in the industry for 6 years. Brian Peck, convicted sex offender, has not worked in the industry other than the time that they mentioned in the documentary since. Same with the other guy. So while these people are all awful, they're all people that are already, we already know we're already known to be bad, and it doesn't ever look upward at the people who had the real power, that had to have known something and were allowing this to continue. And you never hear anything about where were the studio executives at Nickelodeon during all of this. They were counting their money. It's where they were, a lot of them. But I know I'm going off a long time here, but I have to. So this brings it back to my old boss, Brian Robbins, and it's really interesting to me because at first when I watched the documentary, I wanted to come in here and be like I just actually was, that all these things are missing from the documentary, but if you look closely, they are there. And I'm wondering why it's in this way, but the things that, like, there's hints throughout the movie that there is another layer to this. Like, if this is called Quiet on the Set, maybe it's Quiet Above the Line, where it talks about what was happening in a higher level. But one of the first times that they show Dan Snyder in the very beginning, he's like, I'm the producer, he's the executive producer. That's why he has the headset. That's Brian Robbins. When they go discover Amanda at the Comedy Store, it's Brian Robbins who's with them, and that's what they talk about. And what's even more wild about it is they talk about Dan Schneider got his first big break on this sitcom, Had a Class, I think it was called, where he was a sitcom actor. He was on that show with Brian Robbins. The two of them, that was both of their break. They were cast members, and then they wrote a script for Head of Class, and that's how they got started as writers, and then moved on to Nickelodeon. So throughout this thing, it says that, oh, he got this job at Nickelodeon. What they're failing to mention is that it was with his old friend and my old boss, Brian Robbins, for several years, and now the CEO and president of all of Paramount Pictures. However, about the time when all the most horrific things with Dan Schneider started happening, because there wasn't the accusations as bad or accusations during all that in Amanda era. It was, like we said, the Josh and Drake and iCarly and beyond. Brian Robbins had stopped working with Nickelodeon. I don't know exactly why, but then he went on to direct Varsity Blues and a bunch of other movies. So he was directing movies until he came back with Awesomeness TV while I worked with them, came back to Nickelodeon in about 2014, 2015, started working with Nickelodeon again. He took over as president in the same year that Dan Schneider was outed, like right before it. So there's also a timeline where he was never there. Like, does that? I just want to know. I just don't know the answers to these questions. There's a whole piece of the timeline that's missing, and not to be like a conspiracy theorist, I'm like, there's another story here. I want to know the answers to what involvement and culpability did the studio execs have in all of this.
Well, I heard that there were going to be more episodes coming out. So hopefully they get into that in the following episodes.
Yeah. It's because after I seen it the first time, like I was thinking about this, I was like, I'm gonna go back in and watch and see. And if you go back in and watch the first episode, you could see where Brian Robbins is in this whole thing. But it's interesting to me because I'm just it doesn't necessarily say that I'm not saying that he was involved and knew about this, but I feel like he had to have known something, particularly because he was with him from the beginning and then stopped working with Nickelodeon and came back only as he was being kicked out, like, or they were outing Dan Schneider. So, and there was a clear separation in their professional relationships, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's and he's, like I said, now the CEO of all of Paramount Pictures, like the whole studio. Yeah, and I went really, really long talking about this topic, and I'm sorry I've been going off today. But so I think it's really worth, if you've not seen it, if you're out there, you're listening, definitely watch Quiet on the Set. But also think about it in this way where we always got to be asking questions like, why are they don't ever, like, usually the system doesn't out people unless it's kind of like to placate you in a way. So it's almost, I feel like they're giving us these people that they've already outed to sort of placate it so that we don't look further into the people who are still there. But yeah. Sorry, I sort of just went off on this, but do you have more thoughts on Quiet on the Set or Nickelodeon or any of all that?
Yeah,
No,
well, speaking of them giving you something just to placate you, I feel like with the Drake Bell situation, they mentioned the situation where he got in trouble for inappropriate relationships with minors himself. And they kind of just brushed it off as, well, yeah, I was molested and now this happened and I regret it. And I think there was a chance to kind of grill him more. You had him sitting there just like, I don't know.
yeah,
I feel
they
like
didn't
it
really
shouldn't have
touch on
been
that at
brushed over
all.
the way it was.
Yeah, I didn't know much about. I've read about that after, and I was, yeah, because I almost didn't even, barely even notice that part because they just go right past it. Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. Um, Not to just keep on this one though. Did you see his apology video, Dan Schneider's quote unquote apology video?
Yeah, I saw it.
It is a thing of nightmares. It is like, yeah, his facial hair and the things he says are ridiculous. But I think what's worse is the guy who's interviewing him.
Oh yeah, it was
What's
the
his
guy from iCarly, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's got like a oh man, what's his name? He's got like a nickname or whatever. And he is doing the most like he is doing so much heavy lifting to prop up like Dan in this interview. And just the way he's asking the questions is like he's even like, now I know you never had any intentions like this, or and stuff like that. Yeah, but I digress. Yeah, I could talk about the whole Nickelodeon thing for forever. Um, yeah, and particularly like how my life is intersected with it, and the I in my time there, I would say that the show I worked on was pretty good about how they, at least from what I could see, about how at least in terms that the underage, the children were treated, but there was at least like, unfortunately, there was one child star that was on our show that I worked with who things got really bad for after, like, because they followed her career afterwards, and some really horrible things happened, like the same tropes of so many child stars with the, you know, just the drugs and alcohol, and like living such a public life. And there was a live video that she did where she's like gotta be like 19 or 20 post like being on television, and she's with her like 60-year-old producer who doesn't know that they're live streaming, and he's like clearly having a relationship with her, and it's like so yeah. And that was like an actress that was on our show, Awesomeness TV, like one of the stars of the show. And so I seen it happen right in front of me, not in front of me, but to someone that we worked with there. Um, and yeah, so shit, I just realizing, I mean, I've been paying attention to time, but I didn't realize just how far it'd gone over. So we were planning to talk about another topic, which was the new Beyonce album, right? Uh, but we've only got a few minutes left before we have to take a break. So I was gonna ask, do you want to talk about it for a few minutes? Do we want to do another segment where we talk about it, like a short one, or do we want to talk about it more next week?
Um, I think it's worth talking about, but not for 3 minutes. It deserves a lot more
Right.
time than that.
That's why I was gonna say we could take a break now, come back, do the Beyonce part, and then
Yeah.
after that
Yeah, I think we
do
should
the
do
rest.
that.
Okay, cool. I'm down
Yeah.
with that. We'll be just a little long this episode, and apologies for my diarrhea mouth today. But Saturday Night Live with Nickelodeon, and Jerrod Carmichael, like that's got me fired up. But all right, so let's take a little break and then we'll come back and talk about Beyonce.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back from this break. I'm sure you guys didn't take a break, but we did. So welcome
Sure
back.
did.
Yeah, I don't know how to transition into this topic from the last one, but Beyonce released a new album. So of course we have to discuss it. The Queen. I'm not Beehive, but I love Beyonce. Love her. And her latest album, Cowboy Carter, caused a lot of, and by controversy, I mean white people are mad that a black woman had the audacity to put out a country album. So I listened to it and it was beautiful. I think this might be some of her best work. There's a lot of interesting guests on the album. Got Post Malone on there, which I could see why she did it. Same with Miley Cyrus. I could see why she did it. That's all I'll say for that. But yeah, it's an amazing album, but it sucks that it's not going to get a lot of fair reviews because, like I said, a lot of just white people mad that she had the audacity. Have you heard it yet?
Yes. I did listen to Cowboy Carter in its entirety, all 30 tracks of it. And I guess what I would say is, look, I also am not Beehive, whatever. And in general, my thought, like, and I'm sure this is, probably same, is that, like, Eat the Rich includes all of our favorite pop stars, yada yada. That said, out of the way, as an artist, like, even though Beyonce, I'm not the, like, I appreciate I appreciate what she does a lot, and she's one of the most, like, talented, you know, uh once in a, generation artists that we have, and there's no denying that. And this album was very good. It's very Beyonce. She's very talented. She has a very unique voice. She likes to push buttons with what she does, the right kind of buttons, like, just by her existing in that space, by trying to, like, even existing as a country artist, like, she's gotten all this backlash, like you said, uh and that was, like, done knowingly.
Yeah.
um uh, However, can I tell you a joke I made up?
Okay.
um do you know what the best track on Beyonce's new album Cowboy Carter is? Or, sorry, the best
What is
song.
it?
Sorry, the best song. Do you know the best song on Beyonce's new album Cowboy Carter? I fucked it up.
No, what
Maybelline.
is it?
Maybelline. Maybelline. No, that doesn't
I
land.
don't get it.
Oh, remember when she's flipping the radio? It comes on? Maybe not. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there's, like, all right, I guess the joke doesn't work. But yeah, um, I do have a lot to say about it. I'll just say quickly though, is that my favorite track was probably that Bodyguard song. It's, like, sort of towards the beginning. I want to say, like, track 8, right after Texas Hold'em. Uh, that one was really good. And then I really thought the cover of Blackbird was really cool.
That one was beautiful.
Yeah, and to me, this might be sort of, sacrilege to some losers, but Beyonce is kind of like a Paul McCartney figure because, like, the Beatles were the Destiny's Child were the Beatles of what they were, you know, in a way, because they were, like, this huge group, and then she went solo and is this even bigger, you know? So there's this I yeah, so Beyonce's basically like a Beatle. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and if you
So
look at what the song Blackbird is actually about, and then the fact that Beyonce covered it and had all these black female country stars featured on it.
right.
So I think that is definitely my favorite track on the album.
Yeah, that one's really, really good. I really liked Yaya, which is the one that sampled Nancy Sinatra, Boots Are Made for
Mhm.
Walking, and Beach Boys and a bunch of other stuff. Um and I mean I thought the Jolene cover was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a cute update.
Yeah, I like how angry it makes people. Like people think this stuff is so precious.
But it's like Dolly Parton literally is on the album.
Yes, like so
Like she doesn't have a
yeah.
problem with it.
Um my like my whole position when it comes to both Beyonce and like Taylor Swift, not to go off track, but this is on track, is that like um I will make fun of them or don't really care. Like I'm not like a huge on their music like all the time. Like that's not my favorite artist. I'll make fun of them. However, like if you are making fun of, like I'll make fun of people who like them too much, but if you're coming at them from a disingenuous or wrong place, which is usually like sexist or racist or whatever, then I will like defend them, you know? And so the fact that Beyonce has like pisses off the people that I think are annoying and it's funny to piss off, I like that. So I'll defend her on that for sure. Um, I do think though that with people like Beyonce and with Taylor Swift, there's like this polarizing discourse where it's either all like she's terrible, the worst thing to happen to music. This is an affront to country music, or every single thing is perfect. This is like they're beyond criticism. If you even criticize them at all, we will mob you. You know?
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to listen to a white person criticize certain Beyonce albums. This is one of them. Like if
Right.
it's Dangerously in Love, that era, that's one thing. But the a lot of the significance of this album is something that a white person would not pick up, or most white people would not pick up. Even non-Southern Black people probably wouldn't pick up. I was raised by a woman from South Carolina, so Linda Martell being on this album, and if you don't know who she was the first Black woman to have a mainstream country album, like on charts and everything.
Mm.
She's a South Carolina native, still lives in South Carolina. And so for her to be featured on the album had such cultural significance that I think a lot of white people don't see and don't care to see. I think someone made the parallel of this white woman on TikTok was talking about when she watched Get Out for the first time. She was just like, okay, whatever, I don't really care for this movie. But once she knew the context, even if she still doesn't really like horror movies, she's like, okay, I understand how in context this is important. And I think that's the difference between Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Taylor Swift doesn't have anything that's in context that important.
Right. Um, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I know I understand what you're saying. Um the okay, so you said you don't want to hear any criticism, so that just bear with me though. The only criticism
Okay.
I would have is that like you said Linda Martell, right? Or, yeah, Linda Martell, and then even Willie Nelson and
Yeah.
um Dolly Parton are all featured on the album in the interludes, doing these like little radio bits, which are cool as hell. But Willie Nelson, like she doesn't do a track with Willie Nelson, and Willie will do a track with everybody. So it's like it's strange. It was just that was just strange to me. And same with I think there is eventually a one Dolly song, right? She did do one song where Dolly's on the
Yes.
track.
Yes.
So
And there's
yeah.
also a song where Linda Martell is on the track.
Oh, is there? Okay, so it's just Willie Nelson,
Yeah.
then. So you know, whatever. But still, though, that's still strange to me, though. Right? That
She
was it.
Yeah,
So
there
that's it.
aren't
That's barely a criticism, then.
yeah,
You
there
know.
aren't like a lot of features. I think she did want to save those for like some of the younger people, like the younger Black country stars. She wanted to have Tanner Adele's voice on there more than Willie Nelson's. And when I
Yeah.
said I understand, when I said I understand why she had the two young white people on there, Post Malone and Miley Cyrus, I think I think that was a chess move that again a lot of white people wouldn't pick up on that context. So
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus and Post Malone are two very famous culture vultures. They use Black culture to propel themselves into fame and then dropped it once they didn't need it anymore. So I
Hmm.
think
And that's why they both do country now.
Beyonce, yeah, Beyonce then using them to give her some type of, credentials with white people. I think her using them after they used Black culture, I think was a chess move.
Yeah, I see what you mean for sure. Um, and so that Post Malone song, they always he's in all these songs and they keep like forcing this guy on all of us. But just fine. I get what you're saying, but I'm just like, that's a song that was one track I could barely get through just because I'm just so. It bothers me that he's in the Spider-Man song or like the main Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse song is like his song.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his.
And but that
Eh,
track, I will say, is it's got a little Nile Rodgers in there, so that's okay.
Yeah, I'm
But
not a Post Malone fan. I do love the song from Into the Spider-Verse, but that's just because of Sway Lee. That's not because of Post Malone.
yeah. So speaking of Into the Spider-Verse, though, I would like to say I will give Beyonce credit for track number 26, "Buckin'." If you remember that song where she's saying "buckin'"
Yeah.
over and over again, it's featuring
Uh,
Shaboozey, who the
yes.
only other track that people would know him from really is he did with Duckworth on the Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack. It's
Yep.
Start a Riot, which is like one of my favorite songs ever. It was actually
I
my
love that
campaign
song.
song when I ran for Congress because it's a Spider-Man song about starting a riot. Like it's incredible track. It's so good. It gets you pumped up like
That
every single time. So shout out
yeah, I
to
absolutely love
Shabuzi.
that.
Yeah, I figured
I
all
love that
you would do
song.
it.
I was so happy that Shabuzi was featured on the album, and I think he's so slept on. Like even beyond those two tracks, like you should definitely go listen to more of his stuff. He's very talented. I love his music.
For sure. Um, I did yeah, so yeah, I thought like so I believe Cowboy Carter would be her eighth album and the eighth album to debut at number one on the charts. Every album she's put out in her entire career as a solo artist has done so to the best of my knowledge. So there's like no denying the cultural impact of it. And like I said before, just the fact that like country that people that certain kind of people are mad that it's being called country, it makes me root for it in that way. Like, do I think it's a country album? No. Is it a straight country album? No, it's country influence for sure. Um, but it's there's I don't know how anybody could like listen to that album and say that like Beyonce has no talent.
Yeah.
No matter even if you don't like her, like she has a very she's very talented vocal range and control of her voice and can hit like all different sounds and pitches, but still being very unique. It's like even like I said, I'm not a huge fan. I'm not like not a fan. I just don't really I'll listen to an album when it comes out, or I'll watch it if it's a movie or video, but not really too much again. Um, I honestly didn't care for the last album that much, Renaissance, but that's
Yeah.
because all the songs that she sampled are the songs I would rather listen to. She sampled all like house and disco tracks that I listened to the regulars, and I was just like it felt like even though her songs were fine, it was just like to me made me want to hear a different song, but it was still fine. She's experimenting or whatever. But what I was trying to get at is that I have to admit though, my absolute favorite Beyonce all my favorite Beyonce songs are um, Destiny's Child songs. Uh, yeah, but that's also because I like that era and time period of music. and also they had so many bangers.
Yeah, I definitely prefer Destiny's Child. But I gotta say one more thing about Cowboy Carter
Yeah,
is
okay.
that it's not I don't understand how it would be less country than all of the modern country songs on the radio that are using
Right.
trap beats right now. Like you're literally using hip hop trap beats with a twang. So I don't understand how that's more country than what Beyonce is doing.
For sure. And we know that like yeah, and yeah, exactly. And what like this whole sort of purity of definitions of stuff when they're not even the original, like you've already warped the definition of it to get at what you think is the definition of that genre now, you know? Um like if bro country is country, then then Cowboy Carter is country.
Exactly. I heard a white woman at Radio Social in Rochester, New York. If you're listening to this for some reason, I heard this woman say that Beyonce making a country album is disgusting. Lady, if you are listening to this, I hope you step on a Lego. I hope you have a bad
Hmm.
day for the rest of your life. I hope you never find a good parking spot. I'm not even a Beyonce fan. Just like
Absolutely.
the overt racism of that
For
comment.
sure. So I heard that Beyonce appeared at the like CMAs a few years back or something for something, did something. She sang there with somebody, I can't remember the exact thing, but got kind of
It was
booed
the
by some of the
Chicks,
crowd.
I think, wasn't it?
What is it?
I think it was the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie
Oh
Chicks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was with the chicks. Yeah. And that experience is what inspired her to go like basically kick the hornet's nest. Like, no, I'm gonna go do this. Like I could do this, like, and fuck you, you know? Which that I can't say enough about. That's what I love the most, you know. So I respect that. Um I have a lot of, feelings and opinions about the whole you know, uh, billionaire thing of it all, but that's like neither here nor there at the moment. We all know, like, I could do that stuff ad nauseum. You know exactly how I feel about all that. Like, it's but that's not. We're just yeah. Oh, okay. One last thing I wanted to say about Beyonce is that even more so than her stuff with Destiny's Child, I have to be real honest, is that my favorite work from Beyonce is her comedy acting. And I loved her in Austin Powers 3. Like she made that movie, Goldmember. Um,
Oh yeah.
and then shit was the other Pink Panther with Steve Martin shortly after that. And I want to say she has a couple other small roles here or there, but has largely not done a lot of acting. And then she did Lemonade, which I would consider acting, and I loved Lemonade because I loved the album. So I gotta like. I mean, I loved the visual like of it, the movie or whatever. I liked that was what she did and how she did it and everything. So I just want to say, Beyonce, if you're listening, do more acting. I like you as an actress. I think you could you have you're just like charming and charismatic, as a person and great for comedy. And like his Austin Powers 3 was one of the weaker, it was the weakest of the three Austin Powers movie, and would be probably not good of a movie. I would call it not good if it wasn't for Beyonce. Like she saved that movie. Still to this day, I don't know how many years later, anytime I think of Beyonce or I hear this in my head, even when I'm not thinking of Beyonce, I hear I'm Foxy Cleopatra and I'm a whole lot of woman.
Yeah, that was an iconic role.
Yeah, yeah, she's great, and I would love to see her do more comedy stuff. And I don't understand how Jay-Z managed that, but um any more thoughts on Beyonce, Cowboy Carter, country music?
Um, yeah, I will say there's a lot of valid criticism on Beyonce, but the people that are talking shit about her is not because she's a billionaire. It's because she's a
Right.
black woman. We're seeing the same thing right now with Angel Reese. And I don't know if you follow
Yeah,
college
Caitlin Clark
women's
and Angel
basketball,
Reese.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Bayou Barbie.
Yeah, so the shit that's being said about Angel Reese right now, just because she's a black woman who has the audacity to be at the top of her game and
Yeah,
know it.
for sure. I seen it starting even last year when her and Caitlin Clark were, doing some smack talk sort of stuff back and forth to each other,
Mhm.
and they just isolated the Angel Reese stuff and said that she was, a disgrace or whatever.
Yeah, there's an article that came out in the New York Times recently that LSU, which is a majority black team, they
Mm-hmm.
called them what they call dirty debutantes, which is a disgusting thing to say about these girls who are college age, some of them teenagers,
Yeah.
calling them dirty debutantes and calling them classless and saying they're the villains of this season of college basketball. To talk about these young black women like that is
Yeah.
absolutely disgusting. And so that's why I want to see people, black women, take up space and know that they're on the top of their game and admit it and just say, yes, I know you're criticizing me just because I'm a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck you for that. I'm gonna keep doing it and I'm gonna take over. And like when you say Beyonce is experimenting, she's taken genres that white people, which is why I know her next album is gonna be a rock album. She's taken these genres that white people are trying to exclude us from and say, no, fuck you, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, genres that were uh in most cases started by black people
Yeah.
and then taken over by white folk, and then then get kept out of it. Ridiculous. Um, but yeah, the Angel Reese stuff and Caitlin Clark, it's interesting. So it's really going to be interesting as now, for I would say the first time ever, we're seeing a real interest and emphasis on women's sports, or like an emerging actual interest in it. And it's in part because it's the interest comes from what they choose to show people, and the sports media have chosen to start like um, highlighting women's basketball in particular, and it sort of gained a lot of. They've seen like, oh, people like this, because it's great. But what we're getting, not but what we'll see is we've seen the way in which um, these young athletes are dehumanized by sports fans and whoever, and just athletes in general, particularly black athletes, as if they're like commodities, or like a piece of machinery for their team. um, so then when you add in this layer of misogyny and stuff to it, uh, yeah, so we'll see. It can get real ugly, and um, it's like important that people, particularly like other, uh, particularly like other cishet men that watch sports, like, you know, as women's sports are becoming more part of the like conversation and just in sports coverage, to be policing the way in which people are, dehumanizing these like young women, particularly young black women. But yeah.
Yeah.
um we just we just went a whole another nice long chunk here, but that's fine. um should we take another short break and then come back and do our top three?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, okay, cool, we'll be back in a few, um on this three-parter this week.
Okay, everyone, welcome back from another break that, again, you guys probably were not on a break, but it's fine. So it's time for our weekly top three list. So this week we're going to do our top three 27%er club female actors. So if you don't know what the 27%er club is, It's a term that was coined from, I think, Empire Online or some
Mm-hmm.
film magazine. And the concept is it's a character actor who's usually not the lead actor or leading lady, and their presence alone makes a film 27% better. So typically on these lists, it's just all men. And since this was the last topic we picked for our Women's History Month women only list, we're going to go with only women 27
Mm-hmm.
percenters.
One thing I just want
So,
to well,
yep,
I like to think of it as they're in 27% of the movie and they make it 27% better, or TV show or whatever. And it's very different than the 27 Club, which is people that died at
yes.
27. These are 20s. There could be a crossover though. We'll have to look into it, but continue.
Yeah, I feel like Chance Perdomo, who just died, he might be both
Oh,
because he passed at 27.
I think Anton Yelchin is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
RIP to both of them.
yeah. Uh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, 27 percenters. They're like, yeah, um, character actors that make like so. We could probably give some examples of the male kind just to hammer it home, since we're not going to be doing men on our list. It's very much
Okay.
like a Steve Buscemi or Jesse Plemons
Mhm.
or Joey Pants or like um that sort of like bit parts too, quite often, or bigger parts, um stuff like that, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so I'll get started with my first pick. So my first pick, I'm gonna try to be brief with all of these, but she's one of just my favorite actresses, full stop. She's been in some of my favorite TV shows, movies. She's a fucking legend. I have to give it to Regina King.
Oh, nice.
She's not my number three. I would say she's my number one, but I want to say her first. So Regina King, she's been in The Boondocks, doing some amazing voice acting. She's been in Friday,
Yeah, I was gonna say
How
motherfucking
Stella got her
Friday.
groove back. Yes. Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, just like a lot of the just black classic movies. But she started into she's one of those actors who, similar to the 27% Club, which this might be a future list, but she's an actor who used to be black famous. So she was
Hmm.
someone that black people would know who she was, but other people didn't really know her. But now she's starting to break out into more mainstream fame, being nominated for all kinds of awards. I just love her. She's one of my favorites.
Yeah, she's a crossover star, quote unquote, which is, you know, horrible that it exists, but that's like what it is still, like you said, with the,
Mhm.
yeah. And I just want to add, she also recently made her directorial debut, and I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard good things about it. It's this movie called One Night in Miami.
Yes. And before that, she's directed episodes of Scandal, This Is Us, and
Right, yeah,
other TV shows.
feature directorial debut. Yeah, she's done TV and stuff. Yeah, that's a great choice. Yeah. Have you seen that movie or not yet?
Not yet. I want to
Yeah,
watch
me
it soon.
neither. Oh yeah, that's right. Looking at it now. It's like a fictional story about a meeting between Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I gotta watch that soon. That's good. Regina King. Let me make sure I write her down. I mean, I'm not gonna forget, but just, cool. Regina King. Oh, okay. So I guess that means it's my turn, or did you have more on that one?
No, it's your turn.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna say quick before I go into it. This was really hard for me to narrow it down because there's so many people, like different women that I liked, and so I narrowed it down to a short list first of about 12 to 15, and then to a short list of five, and but then from there I have to pick, uh, so three, which I have done. Um,
Yeah, I also have five, just in case you say so of
yeah.
mine.
Um, and I tend to lean towards comedy. So I mean, just in general, I guess my list sort of leans that way. But so my
Mhm.
first pick for 27 for a woman actress who makes whatever she's in 27% better is Mary Lynn Raskub.
Okay.
You know who that is?
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
on my short list.
Okay, cool. So folks might know her most famously as maybe Gail the Snail on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And a million other things. I first remember her as the blind woman in Road Trip, which was one of my favorite, Tom Green movies. And then she's one of those like aliens in Dude, Where's My Car, which were both like movies I watched all the time. Um, and her filmography is like a million miles long. She's had like these parts in literally everything. She was in the Weird Al show when like she was younger. And she first started out being on Mr. Show with Bob Odenkirk and Dave Cross, and then was on the Larry Sanders Show, which is one of my all-time favorite comedy shows, Larry Sanders Show, which was on HBO in the late 90s. And um, she is like, yeah, she's so great. She makes everything so much funnier, and she plays like just with these one scenes, like all these different parts I named are parts I remember that she's in since I was a kid. Because even with just one line or two lines, like I won't forget that part. She's so unique and elevates everything that she's been in. And I will say that one time I did get to quote unquote open for her, and by that I mean I was on a showcase show that she was also on. So we were on the same show before at Caroline's. Rest in peace, Caroline's Comedy Club in New York City. But I did get to meet her one time, and I was kind of starstruck to tell you the truth. But I saw her for like half a second, and then she went on stage. But yeah, so that's my pick, Marilyn Raskub, who also by all like she's been in everything because by all accounts she is like a really wonderful and nice person, and that's how you get this much work like that, is everyone wants to work with you, and everything I've ever heard about her is positive. um and so yeah, so that's it for Marilyn Raskub. Any thoughts on that, or go right into your next one, or whichever?
No, she's great. That's a great pick. I'm gonna go into my next choice is obviously I gotta go with Stifler's mom. Jennifer Coolidge is my choice for number two. She
She was
she's
on my long
been
list.
yeah, she's been killing it right now with White Lotus, being nominated for all kinds of awards. But I absolutely loved her in Legally Blonde, American Pie. She's like the bimbo that I always wanted to grow up to be.
Yeah, she's iconic, the like Stifler's mom is like, I mean, that's like the most on the head one, but it's like the way that she elevated just that tiny role to be the biggest part of like this big movie and become like
Yeah,
a part of the like just the global, or I mean not global, like cultural like lexicon and zeitgeist is just like, yeah. And still wasn't getting her flowers for it back then, but now is finally like, being um recognized for her talents and abilities, for sure. That's a great
yes,
pick.
yeah. She was also on a few episodes of one of my favorite cartoons, King of the Hill.
Oh yeah, I love King of the Hill. Um, Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to um just scan the filmography quick while we're talking about it and see what else pops
A
into
Night at
my
the
brain.
Roxbury.
Yeah, Pootie Tang.
Yes,
Um,
Pootie Tang was what I was gonna bring up. Yeah,
hmm
she's
Oh yeah, she's in Down to Earth. That like you remember that Chris Rock movie where
yes.
he has it's a body changing one where he switches with that old white guy who likes to golf and stuff.
Yep. I
Yeah,
forgot she was in that.
yeah, just
Yeah.
a wife. Yeah, me too. But once I seen it, I totally picture her and remember her in that movie. But I used to love that movie, you know. I used to love Chris Rock a lot though, but that's part. But yeah, her credit list is so long. She's just been in so many movies and so many television shows. I mean, she was in Seinfeld um back in the day, and yeah, all the huge shows of all time, you know, Frasier, Sex and the City, Friends, all huge shows. Just oh, that's right. Remember, did you ever watch Party Down?
Yes.
She's really funny in that too. She makes a appearance. Yeah, she's just been in so much stuff. So yeah, and just a real been around, been working for a long, long time. So that's a great pick. Um, yeah. So this is, man, this is really hard. I'm still thinking, trying to pick um what which of my short list of five, which two next two I want to do. Did you have more to say about Jennifer Coolidge, or is it my turn?
I'll just say this, that she was in Promising Young Woman, which I think was such an underrated recent movie that came out. It's definitely more serious than most of the movies in her filmography, but I definitely
Mm,
think everyone should check it out if you haven't had a chance
I
to
didn't
watch
see
it.
that one yet, but I mean I know I was it was I was gonna watch it and then I just never have. All right. Okay. So anything else or
No, we can move on.
okay. Um so for my next pick for actresses that make everything they're in 27% better while only being in probably 27% of it. Um, I have to go with Carla Gugino.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Yeah, you know who that is, right?
Yes.
So, she's known for many, many things. Um, Depending on your age, you might know her from Spy Kids. Um, You also, if you are my age or you are me, the first thing I remember her in is Son-in-Law, the Pauly Shore movie, where she brings home Pauly Shore as her, you know, soon to be new boyfriend back home to the farm. It's Pauly Shore on a farm, and she's the girlfriend, and she's incredible in it. She's also in The Watchmen and a million other Zack Snyder movies. She's in like all of his movies. Sin City, Sucker Punch. She's also the love interest in Night at the Museum, which are movies I really, really enjoyed. You know, they're quite wholesome Ben Stiller family museum movies, and she's great in those. All of these things, she has like a small part, and she also is more so than even movies, I would say. She's been in a ton of movies, but she's also done a lot of television. And she's been on some of my favorite shows at the time when she was on them over the years. At and played like a significant role in them. Like in I used to be a really big fan of that show Spin City when I was a kid with Michael J.
Oh,
Fox,
yes.
and she's like
Mm.
the one of the main love interests on that show for a couple different seasons. And then um cringe alert, admittedly, you know, when I was in my late teens, in Entourage was on television. We all watched Entourage every week it came out. You know, everyone pretends that nobody that they didn't watch it, but and you might not have because you're young enough, but it was like the highest rated show in the country at the time. So everybody watched it. And she plays his agent at one point, who's like his girlfriend slash agent. And it's like a really big role. And at the same exact time as that, she was on Californication, which was right around the same time as that same kind of era of like television and comedy. And she plays Hank Moody's lawyer slash girlfriend. So she's like at the same. It's just yeah. And in that one year, I think it was she was on both Entourage and Californication, which for like a certain demographic is like on everything. We might as well be everything. Um, yeah. So do you have any? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's an excellent choice. I grew up watching Spy Kids, so love it.
Yeah. What's the name of her? Yeah, I can't remember what her name is in that one, but it's. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen at least the first two.
Yeah, I haven't seen them since I was a kid, so I don't really remember. I mostly was watching for Antonio Banderas, to be
Yeah. Oh,
honest.
yeah, that's right. Her and Antonio Banderas are the parents. That's right. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Uh, yeah. Oh, okay. Shit. One thing, real quick, before we move on. It's just an anecdote. I forgot to say when we were talking about Marilyn, Red Raska, however you say it. So I had already planned to bring her in as my choice, and out of nowhere, yesterday, a friend of mine, shout out to Steve from the Justice League of Queers, he posted a link on of just randomly on Facebook. He posted to the Beck music video for New Pollution, and the caption
Oh
said,
yeah.
check out the Gail the Snail cameo at 155. And sure enough, it's like a very, very young um Mary Lynn Raskob in this music video. Like, so he literally was pointing out her as exactly the thing. That's how I was like, oh, I know for sure it's meant to be that I bring her in this week. Because of like, what are the odds of that being like someone randomly seeing them pointing it out like that? But she's in that Beck music video, so go check it out. But sorry for the digression there, or the you know, not non-linear timeline here. Something of a non-linear timeline. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Also, I was gonna say, did you bring up 24 when you were talking about
Oh
her?
no, I
I've
didn't. That's
watched
like
every
that's one of
episode
her
of that
big
show.
roles. Yeah, one of her big roles.
Yeah.
It's more of a drama side. I didn't watch it. I watched bits and pieces of 24, like some seasons I watched, but not all of it. But yeah, that's like one of
Mhm.
her more iconic roles, like what she's known for. I think that's what pays her bills for sure.
Yeah. All right. So my final pick, I have a few honorable mentions. My honorable
Rattle
mentions
them
are gonna
off.
be Tracy Toms and Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah,
But
that's my girl.
yeah, I love her.
Doc's
But my
girlfriend in
final,
Back to the Future 3.
yes, my final pick, I'm gonna have to go with Allison Janney.
Okay, that is good. That is good, mom. I mean, not
Yeah,
just
she.
that, but
I was gonna say she always like steals her roles playing somebody's mom in like a comedy movie. Loved her in Juno. She
mm,
pretty much stole the show. So I was a film minor in college, and I had a professor who was just obsessed with The West Wing. He was obsessed with Aaron Sorkin in
I
general,
see. Yeah,
but
yeah,
for every lesson, every like he would make us watch episodes of The West Wing.
I
And so
see.
yeah, so seeing her as CJ on The West Wing and then seeing her in 10 Things I Hate About You, one of my favorite rom-coms. Like even when I hated rom-coms, I love 10 Things I Hate About
Yeah, I
You.
mean,
The
even I liked
character,
that movie when I hated rom-coms. You know, I hate your
yeah,
big dumb combat boots. Like, you used to quote that all the time because that was such a
yep.
great speech. It was so we used to do it in like an ironic way when we were boys. You know, young guys when it came out, like making fun, not making fun, but we all knew the words to it back then. So, go
Yeah,
ahead. Yeah.
like Julia Stiles' character was basically me in high school. Like, except I didn't have a Heath Ledger. I was just hating men and being by myself.
Mm.
But Allison Janney's character was so funny, barely in the movie, but her character was so ridiculous and so memorable. And I think that's just like the essence of what a 27 percenter is.
Yeah, she's just in so many stuff. I'm looking at her resume here, and it's like all these different shows and movies that I've seen. Just yeah, for sure. Indie movies, big movies, all different. Yeah, so this list is so long. She's in so much stuff. And the TV list is even longer. But yeah, Said she also did an episode of King of the Hill. So shout out to King of the Hill.
Yes, another King of the
Um,
Hill cameo.
hmm Um, yeah, so okay, that was your third pick, right?
Yep.
Mm. So that means it's time for me and my third pick. And then that's like our whole list. Damn, because there's so many great ones that we haven't even mentioned yet. Here, let me get out the list. We have a second here. I want to rattle through some, okay?
Okay.
Um, uh, there's a great Catherine O'Hara. We got to mention
Oh yeah.
her. Cloris Leachman, um, who's a classic. Catherine Hahn, who
Oh,
is
fantastic.
Marvel Universe. We gotta love her. And I'd
Yep.
say this one has kind of moved on to be a star, but Viola Davis is quite
Oh
often a
yeah.
27%er for a very long time. Um, I would also say Lauren Lapkus and Kristen Shaw are both very similar type 27%ers in the comedy world. Um, okay, and so that was my long list. And so, okay, so I've said Marilyn Raskub and Carla Gugino. So, okay, for my third pick, okay, I'll tell you the two that I'm at. One of them I'm gonna eliminate because I'm gonna give her an honorable mention because I don't know if she's quite a 27%er, but that would be Brittany Murphy. Uh,
Okay, that's a good pick.
yeah, but I think she's more of I don't know. But she's made everything. But she rest in peace, Brittany Murphy, King of the Hill. Um, and oh man, now I got to pick between which one of these last two I want to pick. Uh, okay, I will say honorable mention, but also could have been my pick is Judy Greer, who do you know Judy Greer? She's like the definition of a 27%er. She's in a million things. She plays Kitty in Arrested Development is one role. The secretary,
Mhm.
and she's on literally everything. She plays Ant-Man's ex-girlfriend or ex-wife in Ant-Man, and she's in a million television shows. That's my honorable mention. She's also
Mhm.
Trixie in Californication, which is like a great character. But okay, all of that aside, because that's not my pick. My pick is for an actress that is in 27% of something and makes things 27% better is I'm gonna go with Linda Cardellini.
Oh, that's a good one.
So with Carla Gugino, Linda Cardellini, I'm staying true to my Italian roots here. Um, I like a strong Italian woman. But Linda Cardellini is great. She's in some of the most iconic she has some really iconic roles. And I guess the first one that I'm going to mention is I can't even pick which one is most important, but one that's essential to me is Samantha in Grandma's Boy.
Oh
Um,
yes.
yes, you've seen Grandma's Boy, right?
Yep.
Man, that movie was my whole personality for 6 months of my life at least, and then was my favorite movie for like one of them. It's like that movie is so good. It was really so funny to me at the time, and she's like so great in it. She's like really cool and just yeah, she's just really yeah, she plays that character perfectly because there's a way that you could play it too, kind of like ick, and I don't know, but she's just great. I love her in that. And um she's also Velma in Scooby-Doo. I'm a big Scooby-Doo head, and she is Velma. And so she's fantastic as Velma. And um many people might know her from her first role, which I guess is more of a starring role, but that's Freaks and Geeks, which is sort of an ensemble show. So uh yeah, there's and a plenty of and of course she's also in the Marvel universe as Hawkeye's wife, Mrs. Hawkeye, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to remember what she is, and she's in just so many other movies. She's in the original Good Burger very briefly as a youngster. Because she was also very briefly on Keenan and Kel back in the day. And she also had some more serious acting and stuff that I didn't really watch, but I guess a lot of people know her from ER. She was on that show for like five seasons. Um, and uh, what was the other one? Mad Men. That's what it was. Mad Men. She's like pretty well known for that, which I did watch most of Mad Men, but not all of it. But yeah, so Linda Cardellini. So that was my list. Carla Gugino, Linda Cardellini, and Mary Lynn Raska.
Yep. And I had Regina King, Jennifer Coolidge, and Allison Janney.
Yep. Plus a million other honorable mentions for our list of the top 27%er actresses, which is actresses that are in approximately 27% of something and make it approximately 27% better. And that was in honor of, not in honor of, but that was the last topic we had picked for Women's History Month. This was supposed to come out. Well, we were going to record a week ago. It would have still been in March, but now we are in April. So, women's history is history. Just kidding. But I'm just kind of stalling because I'm trying to decide what I want to do for our next topic. Well, okay, I'm gonna be really lazy and say we did get a fan suggestion for a topic that we should do, and that's our friend of the pod, or something of a friend of the pod, Sammy, commented on the Justice League of Queers page. He commented on a post of something on the podcast and requested that we wanted to know what our top 3 favorite cover songs were, like a cover version of a song. And
Okay.
yeah, I thought our music episode was the one where we talked about women singers was pretty fun. So I thought maybe we could give that one a try. And so cover versions of songs, or songs basically, where we like the cover version better, or or not necessarily better, just the best top 3 covers. I don't know why I'm overcomplicating it. Top 3 cover songs. Yeah. And yeah, so that's that. I'm trying to think if there was any other odds and ends, news and stuff. Nothing else to say. Oh, we are gonna try to have some more guests on soon. I think my friend Tassi wants to come on soon and talk about the Roadhouse movie. We're gonna try to set that up soon, and we could talk about that. Be fun. But other than that, I've been Mike Gamms. You can find me at Mike Gamms on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the stuff. Something of a podcast, that's us. It's at Something of a Pod on Instagram. Something of a Podcast on YouTube and Spotify and the other apps. And you should follow, like, subscribe, comment. You should tell us what you think of our top 3s this week, our top 3 27%ers. Should give us suggestions. Maybe not. Don't give us suggestions for cover songs. I don't want you to spoil it. Don't get in our head. But give us suggestions of topics that you'd like to see from us, or hear from us if you're out there and you're listening. And with me, of course, as always, was Kai VonDoom, and you're what? At Kai_VonDoom 77 on TikTok.
Yep. Kai_VonDoom 77.
Anything else you want to say, or you got to plug, or anything? I know you got your show coming up this weekend in Rochester. So if you're in Rochester, you're doing the Jukebox comedy show this weekend, right?
Yeah, I'm on Jake's comedy. Yep, Jake's Comedy Jukebox at Comedy at the Carlson. And that same day, earlier in the day, I'm going to be at the Rochester Museum and Science Center's Eclipse Festival performing some eclipse themed comedy. So that should be
Oh,
fun.
that's pretty cool. And that's on the 6th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and the eclipse day is on the 8th in Rochester, which is next Tuesday or Monday, next
Yeah, but
Monday,
the show,
next Monday,
yeah,
and the
but the
show is
show is
on
on the 6th. Yep.
Saturday, the 6th. So that's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just got some eclipse glasses and I'm starting to get into eclipse mania over here in Western New York or wherever it is that I might be at the moment, but it is in line with the eclipse. And so that's cool. So if you're in the area, go check out Kai on this Saturday, either eclipsing or jukeboxing. Um, and I don't know what else to say. So I guess this is something of an ending, and we'll see y'all soon. All right, bye.
Right, see you.
You know, I'm something of a podcast myself. I'm something of a podcast myself. You know, I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast. I'm something of a podcast myself.